Welcome back to Briggs on Books. We're truly an international talk show where we talk to authors and publishers and editors and writers, helpers, anything to do with books and readers, too. We love to talk to readers. Our first guest was from England. Our second guest coming up next is Kathryn Brown Ramsperger. We rehearsed it before the show, and I've already forgotten it. Kathryn Brown Ramsperger, author and humanitarian, by the way. Welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's so nice to be here. It's nice to see you today.
Oh, yeah. Tell our guests where you are.
I'm in the D.C. suburbs, and the snow is finally melting.
Finally melting. Wow. Did you have like several feet, or how bad was it?
We had at least close to a foot in 3 different events over a week.
Wow.
So we would think, okay, we've shoveled out, and then there'd be another wave. But it had been 2 years.
2 years
since
we had
of snow, so I'm not complaining.
Now, I have the cover of a book on the screen, 1,000 Flying Things. Is this the first book, second book, third book in the series?
It's my second book in the series, a Bridge Between Shores series. The first book, The Shores of Our Souls, was published in 2017. And I'm in the middle of writing the third book in the trilogy, as well as a memoir right now. So we'll see which one ends first.
Now, do you know it's a trilogy when you started, or did you get into it and say, oh, I better break this up a little bit?
It started out with an image, frankly. It started out with 2 people under a disco ball in 1981 New York City.
Nice.
I didn't even know who they were. And then they started to talk to me. Mm-hmm. By the time I'd written their stories, it was 2 books, and I could tell it was 2 books. Yeah. And it was at that point that I thought, this just makes sense to be a trilogy. Romantic love, familial love, connection, and unconditional love worldwide is the third one.
Now, you're from Washington, D.C. The book, you mentioned New York, but where does the majority of the book take place?
The majority of the second book, it opens in southern Sudan. Mm-hmm. Diana, my protagonist, has been a humanitarian for 10 years, and it comes directly from my own life. I was a humanitarian for almost 25. The story is fiction, but the actual events were inspired by my humanitarian career. And she suspects that there's a tribal leader that is having her there so UN will funnel money to train child soldiers. Now, that may or may not be true. This is her perspective. And she's trying to figure out how to help the boys she's teaching. They're all adolescents. And then one day, very early in the book, a little child about 5, much too young to be in this zone, wanders in, speaks a little English, and asks him to teach him to read.
Wow. Now, have you traveled to Africa?
Yes. I haven't been in southern Sudan. I certainly have reported on it. Mm-hmm. I worked for International Red Cross and Red Crescent. And I was in mostly southern and eastern Africa in the 90s, which is the time period of this book. I started making this about Rwanda, which I reported on a lot, and it just made more sense for it to be South Sudan today because there's so much going on there still.
Yeah, and was part of your hope is to draw attention to what's going on there?
Yes, absolutely. I would love for this to start a conversation, not necessarily about just South Sudan or just war, but the rules of war. Most people don't understand the Geneva Conventions, and I used to teach it. A lot of times people will walk up to me at a signing and say, why don't they like us? Or why aren't we getting along? So that's another discussion. And I always say war has rules and love plays from the heart. And I'm not talking about la la land love. I'm talking about unconditional accepting love,
right,
where we're not pointing the finger and we're listening to the other side of the story.
Now, are you retired from that part of your life? And
I am retired from that part of my life, although I've been asked recently, I don't know if this is going to happen or not, to mentor young international humanitarians. So I would definitely do that.
so at some point in your life, you decide you're going to write a novel.
I've always wanted to write a novel. I got my bachelor's in English Lit and French with an emphasis in creative writing in the late 70s, when there weren't a lot of schools that gave you that opportunity.
Right.
A small liberal arts school. And I sat next to the MFA students in creative writing every Wednesday night and workshopped my work and wrote a book that won the prize there.
Nice.
And then life, and I needed to support my family, frankly. I was on scholarship, and life just intervened, and I became a journalist.
Journalist.
And I worked for my local newspaper, and then Nat Geo and Kiplinger, and then I went back and got a master's and got my job at Red Cross.
Nice, nice. And where did you live during that period? Were you based in the United States, or you lived all over?
During the time that I was working for Red Cross, I lived in the D.C. suburbs to start, but then I was based out of Nairobi for a while, and I also was head of publications in Geneva. And after that, not just for the Red Cross, I was reporting from the Middle East too.
Wow.
I never lived in the Middle East, but I've traveled all throughout.
Yeah. Well, I am rooting for the memoir to come out, obviously. I'm fascinated. I want to hear all these stories. And you're working on that, is that right?
I'm almost done with it. I'm almost done. I keep saying that. I keep tweaking it.
By the way, we have on the screen KathrynBrownRamsperger.com, your website. What will our guests find there?
So they find a description of both my books. They also will find my blog, and they'll also find all of the things that they can do to connect with me.
Nice.
And if they sign up for my newsletter, they get a free recipe book. Now, that's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
It's not only my family recipes, but it's recipes from the Middle East and
From the Middle
Africa,
East, yeah.
partly from friends and partly from famous restaurants that
nice.
gave me the permission to publish one of their recipes.
Wow, that's great. Well, Kathryn, we're really running out of time. Is there anything else you want our viewers to know?
I just want them to know that I would love to have a conversation with them. I would love for them to contact me, whether they want the recipe book or not. And thank you so much for the time, Mike. It's
My pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
You're absolutely fascinating. Kathryn Brown Ramsperger, author and humanitarian. Let me pop the book cover up one more time. Where can they get the book?
They can get it through my website, KathrynBrownRamsperger.com. They can also get it at any online retailer, or they can go in their library or their indie bookstore and say, would you please order it? It's available through Ingram.
Yeah, that's fun. I like to go to our local bookstore and say, I want this book, and they order it, and it's fun. All right,
Very pro-indie.
good.
Online.
Yeah, very good. All right, Kathryn, thank you for your time. We'll be back with more Briggs on Books right after this.